Hey, family, welcome to Excellence in Everything Live. Today, I really want to ruffle some feathers, okay? I am aware that as a form of protection of our children, um, to protect them from any overwhelm, any like premature exposure, it is typically not preferred that we want our kids to work while they're in high school. But today, I want to share some thought provoking things to consider that may change your mind. That is our topic for today. Why every teen must work while they're in high school. And we're going to jump right into it after today's intro. You are excellence. Your mind is of excellence. Your visions are of excellence. Your unique superpower is nothing short of excellence. You amplify a voice of excellence. Your contribution to this world will be of excellence. You will achieve your highest goals and desires with excellence. You are capable of excellence. You have an inner power of excellence. You will achieve excellence in everything, every time. Welcome back. I'm Linnita Hosten, and I'm your favorite student success strategist. I simply empower high school students to stand on their own 2 feet after graduation. Whenever you encounter me online or in person, I'm coming in to do 2 things. 1, expand your mind about how we think about developing our kids, and 2, raising the bar of expectation for them so that they can be competent, competitive, and confident as they go after their dream careers and ultimately make you proud. If you're watching tonight and you're watching live, go ahead and drop in the chat, hey, I am here. Let our sister know that you are watching. If you happen to catch me in the replay, you can type in hashtag replay. And if we just meet for the first time, let me know where you're watching from. I would love to know where you are listening in from tonight. So I'm excited to see you all. Make sure I have your comments here so I can see you. Hey, Deaconess Moses. I see you. Thanks for attending tonight. So glad that you're here. Hey, Talita. So glad that you're here. Thanks for joining. Awesome. Okay. So yeah, y'all know I'm ready. I'm just ready to dive on in. I literally am. So this is me. This was my first job. I worked at Starbucks. I was 16. My mom actually completed the application for me. She said, you need a job. You need to work. My parents didn't need the money for me to work. So I should have asked my mom prior to tonight, why did you do that? Why was it necessary for me to work in your eyes? Anyway, it was probably my favorite job as a young adult. I was a barista, and to be honest, I feel I was hands down one of the best baristas. So much so that my customers, like the people who frequently came to Starbucks, we knew them by name, we knew their orders. They came to my graduation cookout, and so did my county executive at the time. His name was Jack Johnson. He ain't too favorable in these streets lately, but he was at my graduation, my high school graduation cookout, all because of the relationships we built at Starbucks. So I do believe in community. But while I was working at Starbucks, I learned a heck of a lot of skills. You know how people currently say, if you're going to work anywhere for your first job, let it be Chick-fil-A because their customer service skills are impeccable. It's no way you can leave out of there and not learn something. I feel similarly about Starbucks then, not now, because I don't know what be happening when I come in there. I'd be disappointed by the lack of stellar service. But it made me think about, is it necessary for our kids to work? And at what point should we be encouraging them to work? Now, prior to today's live, I did poll some parents, and there's a 50-50 thing. Some of them are like my parents, like, no, they need to work for whatever reasons because they need to learn like that they're not going to be spending my money. They want nice things. They need to earn their money. That's some parents. Then some parents were on the opposite side of the totem pole saying, I just really want them to focus. Like, they have their whole life to work. I don't want them to rush and become an adult too soon. Okay. So for both of y'all on both sides of the spectrum, I got something for you tonight. So, and y'all, I want you to like comment. Let me know if you disagree or agree, or I want your 2 cents too. So, 4 things I want to share with you. The first one is our kids need to work while they're in high school because they need a head start to address a skills gap, their skills gap. Now, you may know this, but artificial intelligence is really like, it is taking jobs. Automation is taking jobs. When I was in Florida and I went to Five and Below, the registers were, what do you call those things? It was no human body. While I was in Florida, also I went to CVS. It was no human body. The cashier was automated. Royal Farms down the street from my home, there's no cashier. It's automated. And these are just like retail examples. Not just, it's not the fact that our society is transitioning into automation. The thing that makes it prevalent in which our kids need to work is because there still needs to be a human body in those instances where there's automation. And when a person is interviewing to apply for a low skill or entry level job, what distinguishes the candidates from the other is their practice and their presentation of soft skills, being able to like have verbal dialogue, being able to orally articulate during conflict, being able to work amongst teams. And so the development of those skills, I feel, should happen early. Here's the thing that I always teach, no matter how old the audience is that I'm working with. This is where students are when I meet them, wherever that is. Some of their starting points are a little more advanced, some of them are entry level or beginning. This is where they like to go. This is like their ultimate dream career. This is like the end all be all, what they dream of. In between that is a skills gap. So they have a set of skills that might have been introduced to them. They might be practicing in school or maybe a part of their sports clubs. And then based off of where they're going, there are a set of skills that it's expected of them to display. The gap in between is what they have to close. They have the opportunity to close that gap. Let me rephrase that. The younger they are, the quicker they can close that gap without it being at the expense of their survival or their livelihood. So, translation, they could be closing their skills gap before they have bills. They could be closing their skills gap before they have other like obligations that soak up their time. So the goal is that while they are learning, passing classes, playing their sports, that skills gap is slowly closing. And it's different for all of our young men and women. It just depends on what they're pursuing. But there is no better time than before it counts, where they should be closing that skills gap. Talita says, yes, absolutely. Tab says, teamwork for skills training, except nothing else. Teamwork for the skills training, except nothing less. Yep. Yes, Talita, it's called self checkout. Absolutely. Hey, Donovan. Donovan says, awesome and important conversation. Yes, I just wanted to introduce some things that might challenge your thinking about how you're making the decision about your child working or not. And here's the thing, the definition of work you can create. If your child is naturally entrepreneurial minded, work could be them coming up with their own concept, product design. Work could be them shadowing an existing producer of products. Work could be them volunteering, and it could be different. So, not necessarily Chick-fil-A or Starbucks. As you all know, the marketplace is different. Our kids can technically create their own jobs at this point. They have all of the tools to do so, to create their own platform, to create their own voice. And I always say, what's the harm in starting early? And if you've ever spent time with me live, I always say this: the people who we like, trust, and admire, the people whose products, services, music, experiences, who we consume, they were likely doing the thing that we consume. When I say consume, I mean buy, purchase, view, watch. They were doing it very young. They didn't just okay, exceptions to this is like Tabitha Brown. But even she was young. She just kind of is now renowned or known. But all of the other people, if you just think about it, if you go back and study their history, the question that I always ask my kids to go and find is, how old were they when they discovered the thing that you now consume and or were paid for the thing that you now consume? It was likely that they were very young. They were very young. Tab says, I'm on team work in high school for young people or for the skills training, if nothing else. Messed up the message a little bit the first time. No problem. Got it. Yep. I'm on team work in high school too. I feel like the goal is to okay, let me put this in plain language. The goal is to prepare them for life after high school while they're in high school. The goal is to give them progressive responsibility so that they can be responsible and independently thinking, independently problem solving, independently communicating without your counsel. So if you're sending someone to college or the military and they have no work experience, to me, that's translation. Unless they've been working for a family business, they started their own business. All of that to me is work. So I just put all of that in the box. Starting a business, working a family business, you work a traditional retail, any kind of work. You often intern, you shadow your parents in their field. That's work to me. If you send them to their post-high school option with no experience doing any of those things, a lot of their interpersonal skills are underdeveloped. They have not an ability to self-advocate. Likely they're uncomfortable approaching conflict. There are a lot of soft skills that have been dormant because we made the decision to shelter them, to protect them so that they can focus on their academics. And while in the current, that makes great sense, but in the long haul, it's enabling. The goal is progressive leadership experience, progressive responsibility. So if that means they only work one day out of the week, great. If that means they only work 4 hours, but they have to be exercising these skills. That is how they're competent, competitive, and confident. And think about the byproduct of being in those environments where you're developing those soft skills. That translates to confidence. So these are things that we want to give them. We want to empower them to go and evolve and develop. And depending on the kind of relationship that you have with your child inside of the home or inside of the classroom, perhaps you may say, no, my child gets that from, we do things together. Sure, I'll give you a pass on that. But if you're the busy parent, if you're not there and you don't want them to work and you're not active in dialogue, you're not hands-on, allow them the chance to evolve in those places. Yap tab, progressive responsibility. Progressive. Because when you drop them off at a campus, that's not progressive. That's you on it. You can call me, but it's on you now. So I feel like to avoid that hard, that's a very what's the word I'm looking for? When you get into an accident and you jolt forward, it's a very abrupt, that's the word. It's a very abrupt way to transition them into real life. So progressive responsibility. So that's the first one. Here's the second one. When we allow our kids to work while in high school, they are actively self-discovering who they are, what they like, and what they do not like. And for our kids who are now having trouble verbalizing what they want to do, they need to be actively self-discovering. They need to be in environments where they can clearly identify this is not it. I don't want any parts of this. I don't even want to be responsible for. I don't want to touch this, because that does help. When we know what we don't like, that gets us closer to what we think we may like. And then it also gives them a chance to see what they do like. So when I was at Starbucks, one of the things I realized that I love like the customer experience. I like exceeding expectations. And I adapted that as a principle when I went to my next internship at the TV station. Same thing. The internships that I had, I adapted that when I was captain of my step team. I adapt that in my business today. And so another thing that I learned was I don't like working under pressure. I get this little thing right here. It's like a achy pain. They call it like basically me having stress in my body. I don't like working fast. I like taking my time, like so I can think and process. And that helped me to lead the decision in my career path too, as I was thinking about or processing becoming a journalist or not. And so again, we want them to be actively discovering who they are. When you're actively discovering something, that means your critical thinking skills are being like used. And we want them. Critical thinking is like prime. It's a prime workplace skill that employers are reporting does not exist in new graduates or recent hires. They're saying 2-year and 4-year graduates are underdeveloped in their ability to critical think, work in teams, writing form, and then verbalizing verbal communication. Those are the 4 areas that a lot of HR departments report a deficiency in for new graduates, those transitioning from college into their first employment spaces. And so by way of working while you're in high school, before it counts, they have a chance to practice those things and discover who they are. Tab says critical thinking is a rare commodity. Listen, I'm trying to tell you as somebody who hires other people, yeah, it is. I'm like, did you think about that? Did you think about the solution before you came up? Speaking of which, there was one of the women in my business cohort. I'm a part of the Women's Business League. Our leader of the business league, her daughter helped me with the Black Teen Summit. She volunteered to give volunteer service hours. She was in 9th grade. When I tell you this, I have never been served like this by an adult. If she's in 9th grade, she was maybe 14 or 15. When I tell you she was problem solving like a mug, she was like, well, if you have the giveaways on the left side, when people are entering on the right side, it may cause a traffic jam unless you have someone to distribute the bags on the left. I was like, however you see fit, please. Like, I'm taking it. But I love that she was taking initiative to think through what could happen if I were not cognizant of things. She even made some decisions on her own and came back and said, what do you think about this? I thought about if we serve lunch now, then we could make up. I loved it. And I told her, Mom, I was so impressed. It's difficult to meet people that way, adults. So when you got a young person who thinks critically, that's a powerful soft skill to have. So I love it. So here's the third one. When we allow our kids to work while they're in high school, they're earning income. Rich Dad, Poor Dad for teens said this: the purpose of working, you don't work to earn, you work to learn. And I want to apply that principle here. The goal of them earning income is so that they can learn like the value of money. Yes, they could use the money for things, but you know how it is when you have money in your hand, you spend that differently. You can conceptualize what it took you to earn that. You're not as likely to spend it so frivolously. Our kids have to have a concept of money. It gives them a better decision-making ability when selecting their post-high school option. When they start weighing trade school, 2-year, 4-year, the costs associated with going that route, the option for the military, Job Corps, AmeriCorps, what the financial benefits and gains would be. Like, we arm them to make better decisions when they have a chance to earn their own money. You giving them allowance, that's a great way for them to earn money too. if you can do that. So I would substitute that here. But if they could earn their own money, I feel like that's the greatest teaching tool. So let them see the value of dollars that they earn while they can. Tab says, send her to South Carolina. Listen, I'm trying to package her and keep her for myself. I'm trying to keep her real tight. I told her mom she can serve me anytime. Anytime. So yes, you earn the income not to make money. The purpose of earning it is to learn how to use it, how to manage money. Um, I am reading Dave Ramsey's. I'm taking, okay, so a disclaimer, I'm a virtual attender of Pastor Mike Todd's Transformation Church. And a few weeks ago, he gave out a subscription to Dave Ramsey's debt program. And I've just been listening to see if that information aligns with what I've been practicing, and it does. But I feel like when our kids have a value associated with money, it's easier to teach them why money matters. It's hard to teach somebody who has no understanding of value of money, like why it matters, how to compound it, why you invest, what it takes to invest. So there's a compounded, I feel, result of arming them to manage their own money, and they need to see it physically. So, when you exchange money by way of a debit card, that is not the same as if somebody laid the dollars in your hand and you spent them. Research has proven, like when you spend like the physical dollars, you're likely to think twice about it you're more likely to think twice about what you're buying than if you were swiping with a plastic, particularly if it's a credit card. Hey, Dwayne. Dwayne said, my first job was at Baskin Robbins in Brooklyn. Love making my own money. By the way, love Dave Ramsey. Yes. I'm learning to love him too. Susie Orman was my first financial guru that I fell in love with. I've recently come in contact with Dave Ramsey as well. So yeah, I love learning practical ways to use money, not just to make it, but to use it. And so thanks, Dwayne, for tuning in. So far, the three reasons, thought-provoking reasons why we should consider our children working in high school. The first one being, Lord, what I say was the first one? Closing a head start in closing their skills gap, the ability to earn income for the sake of learning the value of money, not necessarily just having the money. And what was our second one? Oh, participating in self-discovery. Okay, so here's the last one. One of the big things we say about kids today, or that I commonly hear people say, is that they have no respect for authority. Not even their parents in some regard. I've heard teachers say that too. And I have seen that to also be true. I also feel like conflict resolution is something that you either learned it through observation of how your family resolves conflict amongst each other. You learn to either avoid it based off of how your family interacts when conflict arises, or you learn to engage in it like there's no diffusing when it exists. When you're young, a lot of the social skills that our kids develop, it is learned behavior from what they observe from us practicing. Not just parents, but coaches, teachers, youth pastors, other influences, any social groups that they're a part of. They're learning as they observe us. Conflict resolution is something that I feel is underdeveloped. Oh, you seen Will at the Oscars? To me, it's very similar to negotiation skills. It's underdeveloped. It's undervalued until a circumstance happens where you're like, oh, I wish I would have known how to do that. Hey, Shanice. Shanice says this message is needed. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in tonight. But when a teen works, they cannot run from conflict, like the practice of resolving it. And it doesn't have to be a fight. It could even be, I can't work today because I want to go to homecoming. Like, I can't work next week because it's my senior class. Like, how do I communicate that to my supervisor? That's conflict. So them being able to level up and self-advocate, them being able to think through 2 weeks in advance of the planning schedule to say I won't be here. Those are soft skills that are easily left underdeveloped when they're not working. They have no conscientiousness of how to merge multiple schedules. They have no conscientiousness of being responsible for something, even if they're not physically there. Those are concepts that are only introduced when you're working, when you introduce a new level of responsibility. When my sister was in her senior year, she worked at Chick-fil-A. She was in private piano classes. She was in a cotillion, and she did some after-school thing. She had a wall calendar, and it would tell her like when her college stuff was due, her cotillion dates, recital dates, scholarship award banquets. I could see how her being involved, her responsibility being progressively increased, how it was teaching her to manage her time. So I can't go here because I have to study, I only have these 2 days before the SAT. You have no concept of doing that if you never had to manage multiple things. So again, progressive responsibility allows them to even learn to develop conflict resolution skills, as small as saying, I won't be available on this day. And as big as saying, I'm going to slap you. I'm going to slap you because you said something I did not like, because both of them are different forms of conflict. What do you all feel? What do you all feel are some other reasons why teens should work while they're in high school? And while I wait for you all to add those in the chat, if I didn't mention one that you want to share, I'll wait to see that. But I did want to say this. The goal is to develop, or I feel, this is my whole thing. My personal motto is excellence in everything, every time. Excellence is the highest quality of effort. So I'm automatically going to be thinking about more than what we normally would expect. So today's message is coming from that lens. If we give our kids if we equip them to be independent thinkers, critical thinkers, we expose them to so many different opportunities. We teach them to value themselves. They understand the value of self-discovery. They're very conscious about who they are, what they want. I think we likely have a better society. We'd have people who are doing things that they love because they learned very early what they did not like. We'd have a happier workforce. I feel like as a result of a happier workforce, we'd have less violence because people have an outlet to do what they love. I do feel that there's a community domino effect of us teaching our kids these very advanced skills very early. I do feel like that. Tab said, I hit them on the head. Well, thank you. I had to think long and hard about this. I'm super passionate about this stuff. So listen, I'm going to do this quick plug for those of you who are watching. For those of you who know, this year I released The Pursuit of Black Excellence for Teens. And it's a 3-part workbook series to help kids get very clear about who they are, what they want to do with the life that they're privileged to live, and then how they're going to use what they've learned about themselves to impact their communities. And so The Pursuit of Black Excellence for Teens is now on sale. I want you to take a peek inside of it, and then we'll close out with the introduction today. It was a pleasure to be live with you. I will see you next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I love you. Nothing you can do about it. With over 30 activities, journal prompts, quizzes, short activities, information on prominent figures, and historical learning opportunities, plus QR codes with supplemental learning videos, the workbook is a great tool for group learning within community organizations and school groups, or self-paced learning with parents and their teenaged children. If you are an educator, community leader, or parent invested in developing self-esteem, community engagement, career development, and global connectivity, this tool is for you. Your mind is of excellence. Your visions are of excellence. Your unique superpower is